Have you ever opened up one of those magazines and you see this beautiful home and you kind of wonder, how do they put it all together? Because when you look at the credits and you're trying to see, where do they get that?
Yeah.
And you're hoping it's someplace that you can have around the corner, let alone afford. It'll say vintage or
Thrifted, gifted by the artist.
So we've been there. And one of the things that we've really worked at hard over the years is finding ways to find access to these cool things. And so we're starting a series where we want to share these tips with you. How to shop online, how to find things at estate sales, how to bargain hunt, how to thrift. So if you're like us, you're going to like this series.
So, to kick things off, we thought we would start with the great equalizer of online modern day shopping, Facebook Marketplace. I feel like this is one of those things that in the last, 5 or so years has actually become so ubiquitous or so obvious that it's like, oh yeah, this is just a thing, but it can feel a little daunting, at least for me, when I go on. Sometimes if I'm scrolling, I'm seeing all of these things and it's like, I don't know what is actually a good deal. And then if I find something, I get attached to it. And then 15 seconds later, it's sold. And I think it can feel a little bit like, oh, I'm not even going to bother. But this one here has cracked the code, and she is some sort of magical genie genius on how to use this platform in a way that is smart and not completely taking over your life. So I picked her brain and we came up with 8 tips that I think will change the game of how to tackle Facebook Marketplace in a way that is not overwhelming and actually doable.
Well, first, before we get into the tips, it's just that the rules of the game have changed. It used to be that people had to find things on garage sales, driving all over on a Saturday. Then it moved to Craigslist.
The dark days of Craigslist.
And Craigslist can be super overwhelming. And
Yeah.
honestly, it's just full of a lot of sketchy scammers. And it's just hard to navigate. And when I first started looking at Facebook Marketplace, there wasn't a whole lot there. But over the last couple years, Facebook Marketplace has become the most common place to shop. And if you're not taking advantage of it, you're missing out on some pretty great deals. So let's begin with tip number 1.
So first off, the best tip we can give is that you have to train Facebook to be useful to you rather than you just going through and scrolling this endless list of things that are constantly updating, constantly getting sold. You can teach it to be useful to what you're looking for instead of the other way around. And the best way to do that is by setting alerts. Did you know that you can make alerts for anything you're looking for, whether it's the type of product, the type of furniture, a certain style, or a brand? You can set alerts so that every time a new listing pops up with that going for it, it'll give you a notification. So you don't have to constantly be there updating and scrolling and checking in 8 times a day. You can trust that things will come to you that you're looking for.
I love West Elm furniture. It fits my aesthetic. I like the simplicity of their lines. So I have an alert for West Elm. So anytime somebody is posting something that's like West Elm or is West Elm, it shows up in my feed when I'm in Marketplace so that I can look and see automatically what's new that's West Elm.
And then you can pounce on something before someone else has had a chance to get to it. You can also filter by newest first. So instead of it being this big long thing and something's been there for 3 weeks, you can just filter to what's freshly added. So you can just quickly check something without feeling like you have to spend a ton of time on it.
Facebook works by categories. So what you're going to look for is the category that you're looking for. So if you're looking for baby furniture, then don't look for office furniture.
So that leads to tip number 2, filter smartly. And that really gets into as much as you can, as specific as you can. Instead of just searching for furniture and then looking at 10,000 listings, if you know you're looking for a mid-century style bookcase in walnut, then type that in. Go in as specific into keywords, material, eras in history, brands or style that's like a brand. I've seen a lot of things that are like Anthropology style armoire. It's not from Anthropology, but they get the vibe across. And that way I can narrow in as quickly as possible and as specifically as I can right from the get-go.
And sometimes another tip is to just misspell a word because no kidding, there's some people that misspell something. So
great.
spell it in a different direction. And sometimes if someone's putting up something and they didn't know what they had, you might stumble into a bargain. So it's just a little bit of a trick. What I've found is the more that you're on Facebook Marketplace, sometimes it hides the newest listed and you have to scroll down just a little further to find the ones that are newly listed because you want to get to those bargains right away when they're coming. So, and then, you know, if you've got lots of time, you can scroll to things that have been there for forever, and you might pick up a good bargain that way because people are just ready to get rid of it.
Move.
Once you're on the filter process, there's a little option that you can only search by local pickup. And I always do that because what you'll find is that there's some that'll be local plus shipping, or they'll say shipping. And really what they mean is it could be from anywhere. And I've looked at some things, gotten really excited about something, and then found out it's from Florida. I live in Washington, D.C., and I'm not going to have them ship it. It's going to cost too much. And so you waste time that way.
Tip number 3 is to read the listing really carefully. A lot of times you'll find when someone is shipping something to you, rather than it being local pickup only, that what they're actually doing is going on to an online marketplace like Wayfair or Amazon or an online seller, and then reselling that listing to you and drop shipping it straight from the box. So you'll see really beautiful photos that are in a really styled living room. The item looks brand new. It looks really styled and staged. And really what they're doing is taking the listing photos that are on another website and then just using those as their own and then sending it to you in the box.
So they take your money. Once that's in their pocket, they place the order at a cheaper price and ship it to you.
Yeah.
Which you can get away from that by just doing a couple things.
Being a little bit careful. So one way to make sure you're not doing that is by doing local pickup only. If it's your bag that you want to find something that someone has found for you, great. For me personally, I use Facebook Marketplace like a thrift store. I want to find resale items. I want to find things I can upcycle. I want to reuse and repurpose vintage items. And I'm not really interested in something that's straight out of the box. But if you find something that you fall in love with on Facebook Marketplace that you think is beautiful and you think that's what's going on, take the listing, take any of the keywords that are in the listing, stick it onto Google search, and you'll probably find where on the internet they got that listing from. And something will pop up on a marketplace or a reseller that's probably cheaper than what they did for you. And you can go straight to the source, or at least closer to the source.
So tip number 4. This one's really important, and it may not feel like it's important, but of everything we're going to say, it is, I believe, the most important. And these are some communication tips. So a lot of times what happens when you're doing a deal on Facebook is you got to respect the person who's selling, because if you're nice to them, chances are you're going to likely get that item
Just
that
be
you're
nice.
searching for. Be nice.
Just be nice. No, the biggest tip we can give anyone is just be nice.
Now, I buy on Facebook and I also sell on Facebook. And one of my pet peeves is that when you are ready to communicate with somebody, if you like something, there'll be a button, it'll say message the seller. And Facebook automatically has one phrase or 2 or 3 phrases, but the one is, hello, whatever, bada, is this still available? And then click. And don't do it.
Auto-generated. Bad.
It's just bad. Don't do it. As a seller, I ignore you. As a buyer, you are shooting yourself in the foot. Yeah. Instead, what you want to do is take the hi Amanda or whatever the person's name is, remove the is this available, just cut it out, and then write a personal note to the person that lets you stand out just a little bit more from everybody else who's going to be bombarding them. Because likelihood is that when something gets posted and it's a popular item, there's going to be a lot of people who are asking for it. And I know as a seller that when I post something, if it's the right thing, sometimes I'll get 30 messages. Is it available?
Minutes.
Like boom, boom, boom. And I don't have time to answer those people. But the people who stick out are the people who are what?
Nice. I also think if you go straight to it, if I see something and I know that I really like it, my immediate message, I want to make sure that they understand I'm not just sort of browsing, I'm not vaguely interested, I'm not going to come by and look at it and decide whether it's good enough. I want it, I will buy it, I want to get it as much as I can, and if they will give it to me, I will buy it. And I think if you can indicate intent right off the bat and say, hey, I'd love to know if this is available, because if so, I'd love to buy it. Let me know when it's convenient for you. I'll come by right away. Something that goes straight to, let's make a deal. Let's make this as easy for you as the seller as possible. Let's wrap this puppy up. I'm good to go. And I think you'll end up getting a lot more responses.
My usual message is just something straight to the point, like, Janelle, I'm super interested in this product. I'm ready to pay. You basically want to communicate that if you want it. Sometimes you need to get more information, and that's fine. Ask for, like, is it this or that? Sometimes I've asked, like, is there anything defective that you didn't mention, or, whatever you want to know. But the issue is, be nice in the communication and they'll be nice to you.
Absolutely.
And then if they're choosing between one or two people, I just recently bought some pots, big flower pots, and the lady finally, after we went back and forth a little bit, because I wanted to find out exactly where she was, she wrote me back and she goes, you were so nice. Other people are asking for it, but I want you to have it. And it's like, people feel personal about what they have. And when they go, oh, you were so nice, I want to do business with you. So that's what you want to keep in touch with. That's why we're harping, because it's the thing that's going to shoot you in the foot if you don't do it properly.
I think it's easy to forget that you're dealing with people who love the things they have and want them to go to a good home, just like you would. It's not rocket science, but it does make a huge difference.
So tip number 5 is pricing, because there's several key things here again that will either help you be successful or not successful in the one who actually scores the deal.
Yeah.
So when somebody's pricing something, just keep in mind, this isn't really a flea market where you can wheel and deal and say, I'll give it to you for $50. If you do that, just like tip number 4, you're going to piss people off and they're not going to want to do business with you. So don't think of it as a flea market. Think of it as an exchange where you can find something. And most people are pretty reasonable about their offers and their pricing. If someone has an exorbitant price and you want it to come down, then just ask, like, wow, this thing is really beautiful. It's a little above my price. Would you be willing to come down? Is a little bit better
Kinder way of saying that.
Yeah, then I'll offer you $50 when something was priced at $150.
It's also worth reading the listing, because people are pretty clear and there is some wiggle room. If someone says OBO, that means or best offer, which means they're willing to deal a little bit and you have some room. They're inviting you to make them an offer. Sometimes you can say, you can come down a little bit, but a lot of times people will say firm. And I think it's really important that if someone says price is firm, you respect that.
But let's just say you find something that you really love. Like when we were after downsizing, we were moving into a new home, needed to come up with a lot of new furniture, and I wanted a leather couch. And I love restoration hardware, so one of the filters that I had done is restoration leather couch as one of my filters. And this filter came up for this really beautiful couch. It was a little bit bigger than I needed, but I was like, oh man, I'd want that. But he was asking, I think it was like $5,000 for this couch that he paid $12,000. I'm not saying he didn't get wasn't ripping me off, but it was just not in my budget. I didn't want to spend $5,000 on a couch. But he, in the listing, said, I'm needing to move, I can't take this with me, etc.
Yeah.
So I wrote him and said, beautiful couch, it's a little above my budget. If you don't find anybody by the time you need to move that is willing to buy it at your price, let me know and let's see if we can work something out. And sure enough, he wrote me back, and I knew because it had been in there for a while, it wasn't going to move at that price. So he wrote me back like days before he had to move, because now he's desperate. He had to get that couch out.
Yeah.
And he wrote me and said, and negotiated a price. So pricing can sometimes be flexible, but again, when you're asking for a better price, just be nice about it. You'll probably get somebody who responds.
And I think offering to be someone's backup if something else doesn't come through for them is a much more gracious way of asking for a deal, because it's giving them the room that if they can sell it better, you're wishing them well, and that's totally good for them. But you're saying, if not, I'll be here for you and we can have a reasonable conversation is so much nicer, and I think you'll get such a better result by giving someone that backup deal. So tip number 6 is where I think the real magic is. You can offer to pay now and pick it up later. I think one of the biggest barriers for people on Facebook Marketplace is feeling like they have to constantly be looking for something, and then if they see it, they have to have all this time free to immediately go grab it or it's going to be gone. The thing is, that's not actually the case. A lot of times someone is happy to hold on to something until you're off of work, or even for a couple of days, as long as they know for sure that they actually have a sale. So if you offer right off the bat and say, hey, I really love this. If it's available, I'd love to buy it right now. Can I pick it up on Tuesday? You'll almost always have someone say yes, because you're setting yourself off from the crowd who's saying, oh, is this available? I'd love to see it. I'll come by. And you, as a seller, you can get a lot of people who say they're interested, say they'll come by. A lot of times those people drop off. Sometimes they go away. Sometimes they ghost you. And so knowing right off that someone is saying, I want this, I'll pay it right now. Will you take PayPal? Will you take Venmo? You can send them the money. And then that way it holds your place, it guarantees it, and you can actually schedule this to have it actually fit in your life, in your schedule, a lot better.
We had to move my mom into a new apartment, and I was starting with new furniture for her. So I was looking at Facebook Marketplace in a city that I don't live in. So what I would do is I would explain my situation, that I wanted to pay for it now, but would they be willing to hold it until the apartment became available, because I didn't have a place to go and bring it to my house, because I didn't even live there. It's 4 hours away from where I live. So I would do that, and then I would just say, if you're willing to do that, I would just start to see whether they'd answer yes. Most people were like, oh yes, of course I'll hold it for you, you know, especially when you pay, because then they know it's a guaranteed sale, because if you don't show up, they made the money. Or I would offer to pay $10 more for them to hold it, because one person I did, it was a desk that I wanted, and I paid them $10 extra by offering to hold it, because they would have had to hold it for 2 weeks for me. And they were happy to do it, and I paid them more than they asked, so everybody won in that equation. So it really is to your advantage to pay ahead of time.
And we've never run into problems when we've done it that way. I think it might seem like, oh, maybe you could get scammed, maybe someone would run away with your money. If you're paying with PayPal or Venmo, you can always reverse the charges if something doesn't go right, but we've never run into an issue. And I think that way it jumps you into the line and makes you a lot more attractive. And I think every time we've offered that, we've had so much better success, and it's been less stressful.
You build a rapport with the person you're buying. You kind of go back and forth with a little bit of this and a little bit of that, because eventually, once that deal is done, they're going to give you their contact information to get you, you know, where it is, the address, their cell phone number, so that you can text them when you're coming by to pick it up. You'll do that. You'll get a sense for that person, and I've never been scammed. So it's just a surefire way to get ahead of somebody else. Tip number 7 is expand your search radius just a little bit. A lot of times what Facebook will do is you'll put up by your zip code, and it'll narrow your radius by which you're searching for items for local pickup only. So if you expand that to whatever you're willing to drive to pick it up, or send someone to help get it for you, etc., if you're going to do that, just expand that radius just a little bit, and you'll actually have a little bit more success. And another tip is that when we were picking up this little dog, he was stayed away from us. So I started, before I knew the date we were going to pick up, I started actually looking at Facebook Marketplace in High Point, North Carolina, which I don't live in, just to see what people were selling. And we were actually able to pick up a few things that I was able to pick up when we were picking this guy up. So if you're going on vacation and you're going by car, that's part of the fun. You might find something really unusual, or like say you collect something, put it in there just by chance. It might be that it's your lucky day and you're going to find something that's pretty phenomenal in another city or another state that you're going to. Or you might be somebody who lives in a pretty rural community and you go, my gosh, there's nobody selling on Facebook Marketplace. And that's true. But if you shop at a city that's larger, then put that city as the search city. Override what Facebook knows about where you live and do that city that you shop in, and then start looking. And then when you're doing a shopping trip, do the tips that we just told you, pay ahead, ask them to hold it. You can do 3 or 4 pickups in one day when you're out shopping. So that gives you a little bit more to find those really unique bargains.
And our final tip is on creative pickup strategies. I think another barrier that people have is, oh, I have a tiny car, or I don't have any car. I can't go pick up, a bookcase or a desk or a dresser when how is it even going to fit in my Mini? I think that you can get a little bit creative about how to pick up and how to strategize it so that it fits in your lifestyle. One big way to do that is, did you know that there are a whole bunch of companies and marketplaces where people will go pick up furniture for you? You can use a TaskRabbit seller or a company called Dolly or a couple of other ones. We'll give you a full list of all of our favorites in the description below. But you can actually ask someone or pay someone with a pickup truck to go pick it up for you, deliver it straight to your door, and then this process becomes dangerously easy.
And you can also, when you're doing that, because you can specify, do you want one, does it something that one person can pick up by themselves? But many of the things that I've had people pick up, I've even had them pick up things from auction houses that were just awkward, bulky, and would not fit anywhere. And then I can also indicate that they have to climb a couple stairs. They'll adjust the pricing, and they carry it right to the location that I want without busting my back. So there's lots of great ways that you can not be limited by going, oh, I love that piece, but how am I going to get it home?
Even if you don't want to hire someone to pick it up for you, think about it a little bit. Maybe if you really love the piece or you got a really good deal, it might be worth renting a truck or a van for a day from Home Depot or from a rental spot. You can actually, if you combine this with our previous tip and you batch pickups by paying things ahead of time, sometimes we'll do, if we know that we need to have a lot of furniture happening, we'll schedule multiple on the same day, map it out on a map, go pick up a van rental, and then pick up 5 or 6 things all at once. And you can do it in a way that's smart for you and still get those really good pieces. They won't quite fit.
A tip on renting, you can do trucks, but sometimes rain. So the one that we just did recently while we were at the counter of the rental car company, I mentioned that I was moving stuff. And he goes, oh, let me make sure you get a van that the seats fold down. And so thank God, I had no idea.
Never discount a minivan, man.
So we were able to put those seats down and we filled it with a lot of stuff. So it's worth looking at because it's a way to save money over a pickup service where it's going to cost you a little bit more. But if you're factoring that you got a good deal, then to me, having somebody deliver it, it's just part of the price of the object. It's so worth it.
It's so worth it. And overall, this goes back to the overarching tip of be nice. People are human. If you explain that you're picking up multiple things or you're moving or you have certain times, they'll work with you. They'll work with timing. So you can do a larger thing or you can schedule a pickup in advance. If you're nice to people and you're kind, people are human and they will work with you. And that is the best way to make this actually fit into your life in a way that's practical and doesn't feel like you have to be a slave to the Facebook Marketplace.
So the moral of the story is lots of bargains to be had on Facebook Marketplace. There's lots of ways to go down that rabbit hole. It really comes down to what are you looking for? Narrow it down. Be that gracious person, but there's some great bargains to be had.
Hear, hear. Happy hunting!